Good afternoon, everybody. This is Stephen Orefice. I'm the host of the Field of Dreams Business Podcast. We have episode number 40. Dr. Travis Parry. He's the CEO of Make Time Institute. I'm putting his LinkedIn profile below in the banner for you guys to take a peek at who I'm bringing on. He's a friend of mine. We built a relationship over the last few years through professional business networking, and excited to bring Travis on because he's all about achieving balance. So he's a -- best-selling author for Achieving Balance and Marry and Grow Rich. So talk about family, kids, crazy work schedules. He really lives and dies by his practices and his protocol. So I'm really excited because he helped me in a key time in my life, and I want him to share some of his key principles on how he can help my Field of Dreams fans and all of y'all out there. So excited to bring Travis on. He's coming all the way from Utah. So make sure you say hello, give him a warm welcome, and let's bring Travis on. Dr. Travis Parry.
How's it going?
Hey, Travis, how are you?
Thanks, Stephen, for having me.
Excellent. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Let's kick off the show because I know you're ready to rock. So am I. Tell my Field of Dreams fans one thing that is unique about you that they normally wouldn't know.
You know, I think you kind of nailed it. We have 8 kids. And that's kind of anomaly now in the US of A, where we're all about our family and we homeschool our kids, so it's really fun. So they're home and I work from home. So talk about boundaries and issues. I get it, and I've seen it, and I enjoy all of it, the ups and downs.
That's really cool. And, I love the fact that you're Christian owned. You really put an emphasis on that. We talked about that backstage earlier, and just everything you're accomplishing to really help couples. That's been one of your push over the last, I don't know, a few months or years. How long you've been really diving into the couple game?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually this is why I got into studying balance. It wasn't my desire. That's not where I went first. I wanted to help couples after I started as a financial advisor. I saw how much they argued about money and how much they didn't, how much basically I lacked and my clients lacked. And so I'm, the blind leading the blind, trying to help them with their money and their marriage. And I'm like, hey, something's missing here. There's some serious issues. And I kind of went after how can couples work better together about, on their money. And most of my clients were business owners. So I really looked into what are entrepreneurs facing? What are the biggest issues that they're facing? And it's the time. It's time together and just working on the business night and day and making that dream happen.
Yeah, no, great point there. And I remember you getting on stage back in 2021 in Allen, Texas. And, you were talking about the finance piece, the faith piece, the balance piece, the family at the dinner table, the old school values. So, why is that? You have a PhD and you have a very strong educational background. What really made you start the book, create the book, release the book, Achieving Balance?
That journey wrapped up really quickly as I needed more information. I was kind of clawing at it myself. I felt like I was stuck in the workaholic trap is what I call it. I was trying to be everything to everyone all at the same time, and realized that this was just burning me out. I was getting stressed. And that's when we normally ask for help, is when we're so far down. Maybe it's a male thing. I think it's a male thing. Like we ask for help when it's almost too late. And I raised my hand, said I need help. And as I started getting help, I really wanted to go to the source of where's this knowledge coming from? All these, self-help books, where's the research they're picking up? And I said, let's do a master's degree in psychology. That wasn't enough. And I went on to a PhD in family and really started testing some of these theories that I picked up along the way about marriage and money and time management, and started connecting the dots. So yeah, I'm a kind of guy that if I want to know what's really going on, what the real story is, I want to get at the root. I want to get the foundation. And then after I spent, about a decade in secondary, graduate school and in doctorate school, that I wanted to write a book about it and really help others learn in a simple form that, wasn't, you didn't need a PhD to figure it out. So that's why we wrote Achieving Balance. Then my second book that
Yeah.
you mentioned there, Marry and Grow Rich, that's kind of the sequel to it. And it really focuses on how this affects the marriage, how being a better balanced individual depends long-term on the strength of that marriage.
And I know you've been married 21 years, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So you're just a guy that can speak from experience for sure. So to
Yeah,
be able
there's a lot of
to bring that
experience
to the
there.
show means, yeah.
Ab-
And just, and just, you're on the Field of Dreams business podcast, but what was your Field of Dreams, Travis? And maybe starting out Make Time Institute or writing your books or, getting the education that you wanted. What was the passion and the why behind what you were doing?
It's a really interesting question. My dreams have always been to be a speaker and to be, I know
Mm.
the word influencer is not what we tend to think of these days, but I wanted to be someone who motivates others for good and could inspire people. I wanted to be an inspirational speaker, not just a motivational rah-rah. And so I think a lot of the reasons why I also did the educational piece is I wanted to have a very deep well so that I could always draw water from. And, we talked about faith. I'm very faith based and know that God has been in all of this. And I've been trying to figure out what he's been wanting me to do. And ultimately that's the real kicker. When my father passed away very suddenly at age 49, 2 weeks from his 50th birthday, and I shared this on stage when I spoke at that conference that you saw me at, that changed my life. That made me really think, gee, if I only made it to 50, what would I do differently? And I started making changes very quickly. And I realized that what only thing that really mattered in my dreams is that I was be able to fulfill what the Lord wanted me to do in this life. And he wants me to speak. He wants me to teach. He wants me to coach. He wants me to inspire. And I think some people, they are made to do this. So I've worked on my skills, and I had some skills. I'm still working on them every day. I still get coached and still get mentored all the time to help spread the message. But at the end of the day, really, if we're not living our lives with full purpose together as couples, we're going to be feeling that cognitive dissonance, that stress that makes us really feel torn between our priorities. And I don't want that. I want to be able to stand before my maker and say, hey, I gave it all. I left it all on the field, and I gave it my
Uh-huh.
best shot.
No, that's powerful. And I think, we need to hear that as a society today with this crazy political campaign about to happen and, political world and the way the world is right now. We need more old school values. And I love what you bring to the table on that and just kind of what you stand behind and you stick to it and you preach and you teach and it's a blessing to have you here. So, Trav, what would you give, maybe in, you interviewed my wife and I not too long ago, but what
Yes.
would be one key, way of achieving balance in a relationship when you're also as a power couple, entrepreneur couple?
Great question. And I really enjoyed that interview, by the way. Such a pleasure to interview your sweet wife and yourself there on camera, and that'll be out soon. The biggest thing that I learned through this hiatus that I took from being a financial advisor and then coming back to be a coach and really a financial coach for couples is the importance that having your spouse being on the same team. I teach a lot of time management, and time management is a great tool. It's a great technique and a good system. And yes, you need that, but it needs to align with your values and goals. And if the two of you as a couple are not on the same team, and you're not on this same team in your field of dreams together, then you're batting
Mm.
against each other. You're
Oof.
playing on the other team. And quite honestly, if we want to get, pretty, faith-based and biblical, the enemy wants us on the opposite team. He wants us in the
Mm.
opposite team playing hard against each other and wondering why it's not working. right? But instead, if we're on the same team, going in the same direction, we're going to hit home runs together in business, in life, in parenting, in our own relationship with God, all the areas of life that really matter. So I found that while teaching time management is good and necessary and helpful, to help one get out of a workaholic trap and be more productive and be more balanced, only it's going to last long term if you and your spouse can get on the same page, work together. It doesn't mean you have to work in business together. It means you need to be supportive. It means you need to understand, what does your spouse value? And how can she support you in your field of dreams? Maybe her field of dreams is to, give to charity and help people in Africa, or start a choir, or lead a play, or start her own business, whatever that is. I promise that if you're on the same page and you're supporting each other, it's all going to work out long term. You're going to keep your balance, and you're going to grow a business that's even more significant and reaching way more people than you can ever imagine if you just, work 24/7 and grind to the bone and neglected that relationship.
Yeah, that's such a good statement there, because I've seen such a difference in kind of running the bases with your partner and your spouse. Well, I didn't really have that before, but I know a lot of people go through that, where you end up hitting that section where you co-cross, and you realize that you guys don't want the same things, and that is okay as long as the motivation meets somewhere along the path. And I use the baseball field. What we're talking about, faith is first base, family is second base, third base is finances, and home plate is fun. And if you can connect those four dots and run around the bases together and constantly have those hard conversations, which you brought up to me and my partner, and I've heard you speak on it, it just changes the momentum in your relationship and in your life, because you're creating you truly are creating a legacy for each other and for your family.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I love the symbol in your Field of Dreams podcast. And gave me an idea, if I can. It's the symbol of the home plate, right? Now, I played baseball growing up, and I think every kid my age wanted to be on a baseball card, and they wanted to be, Darryl Strawberry, and they wanted to, all the greats back in the day, they wanted to be, at least I did, and I dreamt of that. I was never really that great at baseball, but I was decent. But I remember that home plate sign. Now, if you turn that home plate sign, as it has like the kind of the point facing us, if you turn it upside down, it actually becomes the sign of a home, doesn't it?
Ooh, yes, it does.
Okay. And now at the bottom, at the bottom of that shape is, according to one of the best researchers on marriage and family, is Dr. John Gottman. And he says that the foundation of your marriage should be that you're on the same page, you're on the same team, what he calls shared goals. And I go deeper and say it should be shared values and shared goals. And that's kind of my research. We won't go heavier than that. But essentially, if you share the same religious values, if you share the same parenting values, if you're on the same page in those areas, it actually leads to better psychological health, a relational satisfaction, and financial stability. So if you're on the same page with God, and you're on the same page in how you parent your children, those other areas of life, health, wealth, relationships, those three that we all want and desire, they are all met within that home plate.
I love that. Yeah, and actually another cool acronym I learned that has nothing to do about life but baseball, but when the batter holds his hands properly with the bat in his hand, you create a home plate symbol. So in order, when you teach your kids as they're younger, I was a baseball coach for many years. I learned this at a conference in Connecticut with some of the high-level college players. But when you hold the bat correctly, you actually create a home plate with your inner chest, and that's when you know you're holding the bat correctly in the right place. And I never forgot that. And it's cool how it relates to the podcast and to what you just said about a home, and the value that brings. So thank you for sharing that acronym. It means a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But Trav, what Make Time Institute? Where did you study? Where did you get the PhD? Where did who were some key mentors in your run now of where you're at? Because I know you've kind of graduated since I've watched you a few years ago. You've really graduated up on the keynote level, on the book level. So you're all, successful author, keynote speaker. Now you're doing high level, coaching at Premier Ticket. So who are some key mentors that have helped you get there?
This is great. I've had mentors that I've paid to mentor me in business. I've had mentors who have helped me on the religious side. Because my father died and I was 26, I wasn't a kid, but I was still a kid. I've only been married a couple of years. I had really yearned for great mentors. And honestly, they're very hard to find, especially male mentors. And I've realized that over the ages that I need to give back. I need to be a coach. I need to help others. But I've searched for and found some great mentors. Russell Brunson has been one of my best marketing mentors. Been following him for years. I'm in his coaching right now so that I can stay close to his ways of being and trying to figure out how I can grow the business. And it's really, really helping. I've always had a mentor in my PhD program, Dr. Jeff Dew. I didn't choose a school to go to. I chose the mentor and found where he was at. In fact, that's why I ended up at Utah State here in Logan, Utah, is he was the guy, he was the researcher on marriage and money. And so I wanted to come and he helped mentor me and help me get out of, the dissertation and actually graduate and move on to what I wanted to do. So I'd say those are some great mentors, but I've also had some, mentors within my own faith that have really filled that gap with not having a dad that I could turn to. My dad was an entrepreneur and I was leaning a lot on what he had taught me growing up and trying to gain from the child's views eyes of, oh, maybe my dad would say this to me, or maybe he would tell me to do this. And so I found that, I've kind of latched on to mentors within my own faith. And we have, within my faith, we have bishops and stake presidents who, interact with us. And I've had the privilege of working with these ecclesiastical leaders and kind of following them. One other good mentor I'll mention is Mark Ogletree. He's been mentoring me as far as trying to teach about marriage and family. Great guy that I would, highly recommend checking out his work on marriage and family. So, there's a few, but I'll throw this back. Prayer. What a great mentor. God is good and he can mentor you if you've listened. We've just got to sometimes be quiet and stop telling him what we want and just listen and really try to figure out what is it that he wants us to do and how we can do this. I know it's a business podcast. And I know there's a lot of faith based guys out there. And if you're not, whatever that is for you, if that's meditation, if it's, just getting closer to the ground, taking off your shoes and feeling the earth and sitting by the ocean, whatever that is for you to connect with the universe, with God, I promise you that's going to be your best mentor.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when I submitted, that really redirected my life. And I heard this morning, crash for a cover for a calling. So a crash is actually a calling in your life. And me, Trev, I'm okay diving into faith a little bit. But just because you didn't choose it doesn't mean he won't use it. And
Nice.
Our powerful God will use your life experience to
Amen.
Correct you. So great point there. And with that being said, the topic that we're on, give us an example, Travis, of one of your lowest points in entrepreneurship.
Sure.
When you weren't sure you were going to make it, or maybe you thought you were going to go work for the man 9 to 5 again, and then just get the 401k, work 9 to 5, and pay bills and die. What was one of your low points?
And that happened 2020. And I think for a lot of people, it was a wake up call, right? We all look back to the year of the toilet paper roll
Yeah.
and remember just how crazy it was. Standing in line, 6 feet distance, masks that aren't scientifically based at all. Like there was a lot of mumbo jumbo that I won't get into, but it was a low point for me because I had just boarded into public speaking in an industry that really I thought had my back and cared about me, only to
Uh,
find out later they didn't. And they kind of just threw you by the wayside, and you were just another asset that they could get rid of. And I really kind of felt like I had done something wrong, even though the world was falling down all around us, right?
uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
I noticed two groups of people. I noticed the groups of people who said, who cares? Global pandemic, there's an opportunity here. And then I
Yeah.
saw the others who were like, I'm going to stick my head in the ground and I'm going to let this pass. And once it's passed, I'll pull my head back out and then I'll do something. And I knew that I had a choice, but I knew that I couldn't do this without my wife. So
Mm.
I said, honey, I've got to do something totally different. I've been wanting to write a book for 10 years. I've always said I should do it. This is the perfect time for me to
Yeah.
write a book and just use this time to kind of restart the business, because my speaking career at that point was just on hiatus. Now I know a lot of speakers out there who they'd already kind of made it and they were shifting to virtual speaking, which is awesome. I did a lot of that during the pandemic as well. However, I felt like I needed to still reach people in a very real way. So I decided to write the book, and I walked down the street with my wife and said, "Hey, if you're not all in, I can't do this. I will go back and go to university and say, hey, I'd like my job back or whatever, and I'll go walk that walk, but we'll have to sell our home and we'll have to do all these things, and it's gonna be what it is, or we can throw our hats into this ring and give
Mm.
it our all." But I couldn't do it without my wife, because I knew if I gave my effort and she wasn't supportive in the endeavor, it would just backfire. It would cause problems in our relationship, and my relationship with her and my relationship with my kids are more important than my field of dreams, whatever that is personally. They just are. So I knew that I wanted to have both or nothing at all. And so when she said, I'm all in and I'll join you, and if we have to, eat like paupers and sell everything we have, I will do it. And we took
Wow.
the last remaining funds in our savings account that came to us miraculously. That's for another story, another time. Came to us miraculously. We paid some bills and then we threw everything back into the business. And isn't that what business owners do? We like bootstrap, we throw everything in, we're all in. And once I did that, and wrote the book, my ability to reach people, my ability to find my ideal clientele. I'm not a New York Times bestseller, but I'm a bestseller for the industry that I was trying to reach with my first book, Achieving Balance. And man, that turned our year from that worst first quarter ever on the history of our business to the best year on record to that point. And the next year we doubled it. Why? It's
Yeah.
because of this drive that when you're all in, you will figure out how to make it happen. Sometimes we get caught up in the details, but if you're all in and your spouse is all in supporting you in business, you cannot fail. It's just
Yeah.
not an option.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really great to hear. And no risk, no reward, and it's a hard thing in entrepreneurship, but you eventually get hit, punched a few times when you're trying to find that, I call it the ideal client or target market. It sounds like
Mhm.
you guys have really 10x your ideal client, and we have in our construction business, and it changes the game because it's less effort, but being more present and making more impact.
Yeah.
And I love having you on the show here, Trav, because a lot of entrepreneurs out there are running in circles trying to do everything and not catching anything. And I've been there, and it's very exhausting and not rewarding at all. And you end up feeling empty at the end of the night, and you could lose personal relationships, you could lose family, you can lose, one of those bases on the field you can lose because you're not paying attention and you're not using your time wisely. So I love the fact that you just said that, and God bless your wife for standing in and
Yeah.
betting on you And I see why she bet on you though, because of the kind of man you are and what you're about. So that's really cool to hear and see.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. And yeah, she had a lot to risk. um, and I think our wives do. Like, man, I had a friend who called up one time and was like, "Hey, should I start this business and do this industry?" And I was like, "Man, let me ask you a question. Tell me about, would your wife support this? Like, is she going to be okay with the ups and down of income and not seeing you for a while? And can she really be supportive?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Then don't do it. It
Good. Yeah.
is not worth it. You made your choice and you married her. And then, that's the two of you. That's between you guys. But
Yeah.
no business is worth it. Like, we need employees, we need salespeople, we need others to support the visionaries and the entrepreneurs out there. But if you don't have that in common, if you can't be willing to support each other, it's not worth the relationship. And I know some people out there, they're making millions and billions and they might disagree. And I don't honestly care,
Yeah.
because that's not my value. My value is God first, and my physical health, and then my relationship with my spouse. Those are my top three.
Yeah.
And when those are working really well for me, I feel balanced. Balance is not a 50-50 of time.
Yeah.
Balance is making sure that the most important things in my life are happening. They don't have to happen at the beginning of the day or whatever. They just need to be happening, period. And when I'm there and I'm making the time for those most important priorities, I feel a sense of balance. And guys that don't, they know it. They feel torn. They
Yeah.
feel cognitive dissonance. They feel stressed. They feel like they never can get a break, or they don't ever do the things they want to. Why? Because those top three things are not being taken care of. And when you take care of those, everything else in your life lifts. Business, your finances, your parenting, your career. Like I think I already mentioned that. Everything else, fun and rec, time with friends, all these other things tend to become even lighter. They're all priorities. But when you hit those top three, and like you said, you're doing much better at, and you've even created this analogy of the bases, running those bases with your priorities. If you're on that and you're running that and making the time for it, it will come back and pay huge dividends in your business long term.
Yeah, it does, and I love what you were talking about earlier too about giving back. I mean, I had it on my heart today to make a small tithe to my church, and my wife's like, I don't know, we're tight this month, but I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna do it, and we're gonna have faith, and I clicked the button in my app, and I was like, this feels really good, and within seconds, I got a phone call from one of our GCs, and he's like, hey, the job closed, and we're gonna move forward, and I got another one for you, and I'm like, wow, God is good, man. And just, so listen to your intuition too. And,
Yeah.
because, whether it's God or whatever you believe in, you know, you will be spoken to, like you said earlier, about letting the quiet get to you, let yourself settle, give yourself permission to take some quiet time. I sit on the back deck, I drink my coffee, sit with my dog, sit with my wife, and we just spend time together and leave our phones inside. But even if it's 2 minutes, or
Yeah.
3 minutes, and stretch outside, or pray, or take time for yourself and go for a walk around the neighborhood. But we talked about this before, but whatever it is that makes you happy and gets you away from the daily grind, you got to be able to do that. And since I've implemented those things in my life, my health has really escalated to the top. And I know you've really took time in your life to put those measures in place, and it just makes you overall happier.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you did it, that's huge. The
Yeah.
fact that we're talking, about this now that you've implemented that, is why I like to speak. I don't get out there as much as I'd like, because I want to be balanced dad. I want to be here with my kids. But when I do, and I get stages like that, and to hear your story of just making small tweaks, right? Making
Yeah.
a tweak with your health, that affects everything. It affects your spirituality. It
Yeah.
affects your relationship with your spouse. It affects how you show up at work.
Yeah.
So what we tend to do is, as humans and as men, is we kind of decompartmentalize, which is just a natural thing for us males to do. And you females out there, you have a better ability to think about a lot of things at the same time. But us males, we tend to decompartmentalize and think, well, if I just focus on the business, if I just focus on this. But what we don't see is how, when we focus on our health, our mental health, our spiritual health, how that affects how we show up and how we're, relating with others. And we're able to be in more control of our own actions, our body, our, get rid of addictions and other things that maybe be plaguing us so that we can be the best on the field. So, man, I love that you tell that story. And I love that you tell the story of God showing up, because his timing is always good.
Oof.
We question it all the time. Like, why didn't you show up here? Why didn't you show up there? I don't know. There's been periods in my life where I feel like he's not answering me right now. I don't get it. It's been
Oof.
months and I've been needing this, this, and this, and this, only to see how he comes in clutch right at the right moment. And man, other people are good. They are God's hands. I told you we got, we put all of our money into the business, that we had in savings. It came to us miraculously from another entrepreneur who was willing to give. And he saw my time of need and knew that my industry was toast. And he showed up the exact amount. I don't think I've ever told this on a podcast, Stephen, but the exact amount of money that the night before I told my wife, if I could just have this amount, I know I could reinvest it and it could grow. Just like the money tree behind me, like it would grow. I just know what I need to do, right? That very next morning, a very successful and gracious, and I'm grateful to him, a very giving person gave that exact amount to the cent.
Wow.
And I can't believe it sometimes. I
That's
can't
not a
believe, no, I can't believe sometimes that God doesn't show up, and I'm thinking he wants us to do these things. He wants us to show up in our businesses because we have to help other people. That business owner helped me. And when I help other business owners have better balance and help them have better marriage, I feel amazing. That's my calling. That's what I'm supposed to be doing professionally anyway. And my reward is that they share value with me, which is providing for my family. But if we get down to the nuts and bolts of what money really is, it's a stewardship from God, and it's how we take care of it. And that you're willing to give and help other people in need means the world, my friend. It really does. And your priorities are where they need to be.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it took a lot of work personally to get there, and I truly believe a crash is a call. What I was talking about before, because I was literally face down and didn't know if I get back up, and depression, anxiety, and a lot of people went through that during the global pandemic and are still dealing with those types of things, especially men. Which I'm finding more and more men empowerment, and that's why I love to get involved in those conferences because we're taught to, I come from an Italian hardcore family, New York mentality. We hide our feelings and we just continue to run through a wall, which is great. But at some point you have to address those feelings and you have to address those personal needs. And if you don't, you could spiral out of control really quickly, and and that's the key, is how to find solutions and not problems. So thank you for sharing that. And I love the path that you're on, Trav. And as we wrap up here, where can people find you?
Sure.
Any special programs or things you have coming out in the near future that we can support you on?
Yeah, if they go to balanceddads.com, so balanced with a D, dads.com. That's my full website. It's the Make Time Institute website. It has all of my books. It has how they can listen to my podcast, The Balanced Growth Show, where we talk about and have awesome people like you and your wife on to interview about how you grow your business while keeping that sense of balance. It has my book, Achieving Balance, and a lot more, how you can get, involved in the whole movement of creating balanced dads everywhere. That said, the latest and greatest is my book, Marry and Grow Rich. You can get it right now. It's an ebook form. I'm working on the audio. That should be done in the next couple of weeks. But I will send that to you for free. If you download the audio, it'll come with it. If you go to marryandgrowrichbook.com, marryandgrowrichbook.com. It's also on my website, balanceddads.com. So you can find that there. Otherwise, reach out to me, Travis at Make Time Institute directly. If you have any questions, happy to answer them for you. Happy to help however I can to help you have a more balanced life, not just short term, but long term with your spouse as you're growing that business on your field of dreams.
Beautiful. Thank you, Travis. And it was a pleasure having you today. We look forward to watching you grow, your family grow, and your business grow. So thanks for coming on the Field of Dreams Business Podcast.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you soon. All right, guys, that concludes episode number 40 with Dr. Travis Parry, of CEO, Make Time Institute. Hope you got some value from the value bombs that he dropped today about the baseball analogy, about the baseball field, and his opinions on achieving balance. Make sure you go buy his book. We'll include the link below after the show. We'll be available on all podcast platforms as well, Google, iHeartMedia, and Apple as well. So look out for that. Also, I'm a big supporter of the Tattoo Mark Foundation. I'm a board member. So if you guys want to purchase a teddy bear, it's less than $5. You can go to tattoomarkfoundation.com. I'll add it in the link below. And you can buy a teddy bear for children in need during the holiday season here in the entire state of Texas. So thank you all for listening and watching. And if you have questions, please reach out to me, reach out to Dr. Travis. We'd be more than happy to help you. Make sure you download his book and purchase his book. Will help you and your significant other really achieve your field of dreams. So make it a great day, and God bless.